So so Ed, you were based in Beijing for the Times until you left in December. And from 2008 until 2017, were you tempted to stay that last week so you can say it's exactly 10 years?
Okay. I was there from 2008, right before the Olympics, to December 2016. So it was 9 years, and it was there were a wide range of changes during that time. I think Minky, you wanted me to give an overview of.
Yeah, I think we've heard a little bit about the technological. Alexa mentioned the legal. If you could talk about the ideological side of things, because this has become one of the major features. I can hand off the mic. So if you could maybe give us a brief tour of the ideological dimensions of the controls on social media, and feel free to start with the political situation.
Sure. I think in 2008, a lot of us who were in China at that time, I think everyone's sitting here was probably there around that time, felt that it was a time when the party was gaining a lot of confidence. And the question then was, what would the party do with that confidence? Was there a chance that it might allow more open conversation in certain spheres because it felt confident enough in the direction it's taking the country and its support among the people? Or would it then later on sort of clamp down on further sort of conversation and expressions of free expression? Would it use that confidence and channel it that way? And then to what degree was fear and fear of an erosion of party legitimacy wrapped into the decision that we made? So in 2018, you have sort of the symbolic weight of the Olympics, of China staging the Olympics, and foreign leaders coming to China, and the idea that this was sort of a coming out party for China. And then immediately afterwards, you have the financial crisis that was started here in the U.S. I think that really led a sense of confidence to the party and to planners within the party. They thought that China's political and economic system had a sense of legitimacy in a way that it hadn't before, because the U.S. economic system and financial system based, in Wall Street, and with lack of proper regulation from the U.S. government, have failed not only the U.S. but also many parts of the world. And China used a stimulus plan as well as loose bank lending to keep the Chinese economy growing, and then that actually propped up the world economy. So in a way, China was responsible for keeping the world economy going even during that very sluggish period. And we talked on the panel about sort of the high point of online expression under the Hu Jintao era, and people say that 2009 to 2010 or so was the flowering of Weibo. But I think behind the scenes, in that late Hu Jintao era, in the second term, there was already a sense that among leaders that the party really needed to clamp down. And I think it's a mistake to say, it's a Xi Jinping initiative. I think Xi Jinping put it on steroids, and partly that's his own ambition and other things that he saw happening. But I think in the second half of the Hu Jintao era, after what happened in 2008 with this newfound sense of confidence, as well as other factors, then party leaders were saying we need to really start clamping down on expression both online as well as in the physical realm within our society. And that's due to several things. I think in 2008, there was the Tibet uprising in Western China, which was a huge thing for China. It was the largest sort of ethnic uprising in many years in that part of China. And then in 2009, you have the ethnic rioting that took place in Urumqi, and then protests spread to a few other places in Xinjiang. So I think that the party has a very existential fear of these regions breaking off, and we saw how they reacted to what happened in Xinjiang. They actually imposed severe internet controls in this region, which is 1/6 of the territory of China. What they did was to create an intranet and blocked the people who were living in Xinjiang from getting onto the wider internet. And it was a very tight intranet where you could go to some government sites. And there were stories of actually people leaving Xinjiang to go to internet cafes and say Gansu, right, just to do gaming or things like that because they wanted to get on the internet. And I think that that control in Xinjiang was sort of a precursor to ways that they would experiment with controlling the internet. And you also had other things happening in other parts of the world at this time. You had, for example, the Green Revolution in Iran. You had the onset of the Arab Spring and the Arab revolutions in 2011, and then these mysterious calls online for a Jasmine revolution, a parallel revolution in China, parallel protests in China, and I think those are still not fully explained. But the party really saw those as and what was happening in the Arab world as potential threats to the party. And so then it started, and it also saw in the Arab world how those revolutions were fueled by the use of Facebook and other social media. And I think then it decided then that it would really start clamping down on use of various forms of social networks within China. And also it would then move more quickly to suppress protests, physical protests that would take place in cities in China. And, there are a lot. Like, I think that one of the things that we, people who don't know China well, think there's a misconception that it's a police state and that authorities are clamping down all over the place, and there's not even kindling for sort of protests. But, there was a statistic that I think a Chinese researcher came up with, within the last decade. That's 1 year there were 180,000 acts of social protest within China, and when you're in Beijing,
larger mass incidents.
Right? Yeah, mass incidents, and the party's concerned about those. It can tolerate, I think, certain forms of it, but it doesn't want them to spread. I think the key is to keep things from snowballing, and so you'll have people rampage through a town in Guangxi and burn down the police station, and these are things that I think they believe they're not happy about, but they think can be managed. But things that snowball to other parts of the country are what concern them. And so a lot of the controls you see being exerted are to keep things from a word of collective action from spreading. And then, so you have that atmosphere already in place by the end of the Hu Jintao era, and then when Xi Jinping comes in, then you see a real emphasis on the primacy of the party. It had already been moving in that direction, but he really codifies it, and then you see various forms of changing the legal system of the legal code to really codify sort of the regulations and the restrictions that the party wants to put in place. And I think that we see that a greater move towards a sense of the leader, the personality of the leader, coalescing around the personality of the leader, and of the idea of a strong leader who imposes various controls across the party down to the very local levels, using things like the anti-corruption campaign, for example. So all this is a sense of the party wanting to reassert its power at the center and to gain party discipline and discipline across the state, also in various forms across China.